before the draft, the Rangers made a pretty good trade. So the Rangers decide to deal off their second-string goaltender, Gregorgiev, to the Colorado Avalanche. I'm not surprised. We've seen the Islanders make some trades, sending Taves to the Colorado Avalanche, and it was a big move for them. Trade away their second-string goaltender, well, I think is going to be good in the league. There were some spots that I saw to believe that he has talent. He's obviously not Shesterkin, but he's still a very good goaltender. So he goes to Colorado, the championship, Colorado Avalanche. They get a third and 2 fifths. Ranger fans should be happy that they got something back for him. A lot of people thought they were only going to get 1 pick for him.
Yeah.
They got 3. So that shows you that Chris Drury might know what he's doing, but he likes to attack his best players in Panarin. There is some stories coming out that the Rangers are very interested in Patrick Kane. I don't know how this makes sense, but other teams like the Islanders should be looking at him. Quite a few teams should be looking at him because I still think he's one of the elite players in the NHL at 33 years old.
Yeah, there's going to be competition for Patrick Kane because he still had a very strong scoring year as a whole.
92 points.
Just for the Rangers right now, they have a lot of money invested into wings already that I don't think it's really worth for them. If the Rangers are going to make a trade, it's going to be probably for a center, a guy that can win faceoffs, and they're going to have to re-sign their own players first. I'm hoping they keep Kopp and Vetrano. Ryan Strome, I'm good with letting him walk, but Kopp is a guy that's 154%. In terms of Patrick Kane, yeah, there's definitely a lot of options. The Islanders definitely should pursue that kind of thing. They need a speed winger to go along with Barzal. But you also were mentioning you think they could even move Barzal to the wing too if they trade for a center.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Lou Lamoriello has brought that up, that if a player becomes available, if they bring in a center, because they have been talking to the Vancouver Canucks and bringing in JT Miller, who is a center, who also played wing with the Rangers. If they decide to make a move like that, there is stories coming out that they might be thinking to move Barzal to the wing position, which might make Barzal a better player, even though he's one of the better centers in the league, and he's a good face-off guy. It's going to be interesting to see what the Islanders do in the offseason, but the Islanders make a trade, Speedy. What did you like about that trade?
Alexander Romanov, a 22-year-old defenseman that is a guy that I think fits well with a physical system. Now, obviously, it's not Barry Trotz's defense, but Lane Lambert's going to get Barry Trotz concepts onto that defense. And 22 years old, he was a former second-round pick of the Montreal Canadiens back in 2018, and a guy that played both first and second pair defense with Montreal with Jeff Petrie and Ben Sherratt before he got traded. So a guy that knows how to work well with veteran guys. And you actually brought up something very interesting too. He has some connections with Sorokin as well, which could help chemistry-wise.
Yeah, and I don't know how much connections he does have with Sorokin. And with this Philip Forsberg thing, it seems like he's off the wish list for the New York Islanders. I've been reading that the Islanders are not interested in making a move for Philip Forsberg. Johnny Gaudreau is a guy that they really, really like. If he's still unsigned when the opening of free agency happens, maybe Gaudreau could be a guy that the Islanders try to land. He's going to want at least $10 million.
Yeah, definitely. After the year he had, top 5 points year over 110 points. Absolutely.
But he's a player that you're looking for, and it gives Barzal that other superstar player to play beside him, which he's been really lacking since he's come into the league. It'll be very interesting to see what the Islanders do. Adding Alexander Romanov, he's a good player. He's a speed skater. He was one of the top hitters in the league, especially for defensemen. He's young, and he still has a lot of upside, especially offensively. When he came into the league, they thought he had a tremendous amount of upside offensively. He really hasn't developed an offensive game. We'll see what Lane Lambert does with him. The Islanders add another young defenseman to that young defensive core that they have. They got to re-sign Dobson this offseason. Alexander Romanov will probably be partnered up with Dobson.
Which complements each other well.
Both very young players. Dobson, who's 21, Romanov, 22. Yep. Two of the best defensemen in the NHL, and Pelican and Pulak, probably the best tandem in the league. You have 4 guys, quality guys, and you have Aho and Salo. They can still dangle Mayfield in a trade. Yep. So the Islanders are loaded, and they have a couple of really good defensemen in their farm system. And they drafted a couple this year. Picking at 65, one of the more underrated defensemen in this year's draft, Adelius, who's a guy that a lot of people liked. He has a tremendous amount of size. He can hit. He needs to put on a little bit more weight, but he's long reach. He could be a really, really good young defenseman in the future for the New York Islanders. And the Islanders also at 98 drafted another young defenseman, Isaiah George, who a lot of people thought was a second-round talent. He fell all the way to the 4th round, who a lot of people like. He's got speed. He can hit. Another young, talented defenseman for the future for the New York Islanders.
When you look at the foundation of what Lane Lambert wants to do, they want to get younger at that position and faster. The Islanders, the one thing they did lack was team speed as a whole.
Romanov is fast.
That's exactly why I think they're trying to make that a little different from what Trotz had when he had to deal with more of the veteran defensemen. And I think these young kids are definitely going to help that.
As far as the Rangers is concerned, I think you should be happy with the New York Rangers. They're still one of the top 3, top 4 young teams in the NHL. They have one of the best young defensemen in the league in Fox, a very good young goaltender in Shesterkin, the core of players that are coming back next year. Now, Speedy, you look at their draft. What really stood out to you going into this year's draft for the New York Rangers?
A lot of forwards that are more physical because they had only a second-round pick and then a bunch of later draft picks after that to help out that potential bottom six down the road, which sometimes that can get pricier with veterans too. So they know that their top six, their core, is going to be there to stay. Whether they get rid of some of the free agents I mentioned before or not, they still want to fill out the rest of their depth. They know depth wins. You saw what Colorado did bringing the depth they had and the young depth, and they still want to stay fast as well. I think that's what they were prioritizing more from an identity perspective.
As far as the rest of the draft, I thought looking at some of the players that were drafted early in the first round, Slavakovsky, a lot of people thought was the best winger in this draft. Nobody thought he was going to go one. Everybody really thought that Shane Wright was the predominant number one draft pick. How he fell to the fourth pick of the draft was very surprising. The Krakens got themselves a great young player, one of the best centers we've seen come out of this year's draft. So there was a lot of things that really happened in this year's draft that didn't make any sense. Logan Cooley going to Arizona over a guy like Shane Wright, two centers that are both very talented centers. I thought Cooley was a little bit under Wright, and how Arizona decided that they wanted to pass on Wright. They really like Logan Cooley, who a lot of people compare his skills to Patrick Kane.
Cooley, more of an undersized center, but still very skilled.
They say he can create on any offensive side of the puck.
I know a lot of people were questioning the Montreal pick, but Savlovsky's a guy with a 6'4" build that is a very good puck handler. That's going to be a guy that's going to be tough to get off the puck. He's 193 pounds already at age 18, so he definitely has a lot of room to grow in muscle, grow in his own body, and he's not like a super physical guy as it is, but who says in that system he can't be? We'll see what Martin
This draft made history, by the way. The first two picks in this year's draft were two picks from Slovakia.
Oh, wow.
A defenseman and offensive player.
Yeah,
the first time
Devils,
it's ever happened before.
The Devils took the best defenseman in Nemec as well at number 2, which a lot of people were surprised at, but I think they need more defense than they do offense.
They said
now.
Nemec has been playing in the professional men's division since he was 14 years old.
Okay. Even people criticizing that pick, I don't really get it either. The Devils have a lot of offense. Heischer, Jack Hughes, Yaronovich. Their defense outside of Dougie Hamilton is very thin. And then they drafted the kid Smith, who played well too, but offensively, they got a lot more.
I think when you look at these draft picks, you don't know what they're going to be. Nemec was a guy that a lot of people spoke highly of, and some people believe is a number one guy. He's going to be an all-around great player in this league, and he's been playing in the men's division. There was more than enough tape watching him play with men on how talented this kid's going to be. He doesn't fear anything, and that's what you want to find, a guy that's not fearful to any position in the playoffs or even when his team is down and out. You know, also had a very good draft, the Buffalo Sabres, who a lot of people say players go to die.
Well, we always think they have a good draft on paper, and then something happens.
They had a really good draft. I mean, they rated him at an A-.
I like the kid Savoy.
They also got the top goalie prospect in Tobias Lininian.
They've needed a goalie ever since they lost Ryan Miller.
Anaheim had a pretty good draft as well.
I've loved their drafts the last couple of years. I think they were building something nice over there.
And the Blackhawks, why they traded Kirby Dach or Alex DeBrincat. But if you look at their draft, especially getting Kevin Kuczynski, I think you understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to rebuild through youth. I think they're going to eventually trade Jonathan Tames. He might be on his way out.
His contract's going to be hard to move.
And Patrick Kane is definitely going to be on his way out, either this offseason or sometime in the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised they traded DeBrincat as fast as they did, because I thought he would be the Patrick Kane, not necessarily replacement because he hasn't done it long enough, but he scored 41 goals in 2 separate seasons already, and then they traded him. They better hope the draft picks that they made are going to be worth it. Now, the kid they drafted is supposed to be the best offensive defenseman in this draft, so could it be worth it? Possibly, but it's going to be very tough to replace a guy like DeBrincat.
And now let's get into a little bit of football conversation. The talk that Baker Mayfield was on his way to Seattle was never going to happen. We found out that he's going somewhere else, and I told you guys where I thought he fit the most, and that was the Carolina Panthers. The only reason why a lot of people were skeptical about this is because Sam was there. Made a trade in the offseason last year to send 2 and a 4 to the New York Jets to get Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold did not have a very good season last year. He lost his job to Cam Newton.
And P.J. Walker.
And then came back because of injuries and got booed off the field. And maybe it was because of Christian McCaffrey, because the first 3 games, Sam Darnold was playing well. They had a good running game. Christian McCaffrey got hurt, and they weren't the same team, and they were fighting injury all season. They weren't protecting Sam when he needed protection, a.k.a. the New York Jets. And I don't care what Robbie Anderson says off the field, because he, again, takes a shot at Jets that the Jets ruined Sam. And I would agree that in some points, the Jets did ruin Sam Darnold. But to sit here and keep pointing fingers at the Jets, that they're the main reason why Sam Darnold went to the Carolina Panthers. He had a chance to prove himself last year. He didn't prove himself. Now he's going to be fighting for a job for Baker Mayfield, which, by the way, Carolina gave up nothing for.
Additional 2044 5th-round pick, which could become a 4th if Baker Mayfield plays 70% of the
guy that took the Browns from one play to an AFC title championship. They had a chance to go to the AFC title game against the Buffalo Bills. And who knows, maybe they beat the Buffalo Bills.
Maybe. Probably still would have been hard in Buffalo in a third straight time.
Nevertheless.
But definitely still possible because that team was very talented that year and has a good running game. And Baker Mayfield played efficiently in that game too. Had that one bad pick six in that Chiefs game, but that was really it. And definitely a culture changer. So
what was it, 2.5 years ago, where he had a really good season. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,655 yards.
Was good his rookie year. His second year was the bad one when Freddie Kitchens was the head coach. Their offensive line was bad that year too, but still all that talent around him too, so no excuses there. But 2020 was the bounce back year, made the playoffs, won the Browns' first playoff game since 1994, and now all of a sudden he's gone.
Fans are pushing him out.
Yeah, for a team that had a quarterback graveyard. That's the same fans that are pushing him out.
They sent him away for DeShaun Watson, who might not even play a game this year.
Nope.
What do the Browns do with their backup quarterback position if DeShaun Watson doesn't play at all this year? They don't have Baker anymore. He's over there in Carolina fighting for a job with Sam Darnold.
Maybe they'll have to lure Drew Brees out of retirement or something like that.
Jimmy Garoppolo is the only name that really stands out.
Yeah, but even he's not guaranteed to be traded either. We have to see.
I mean, everything that I've read is that they don't want to keep Jimmy G. They want to move on from him. Everything that I've heard that San Francisco wants Trey Lance to start. And I think Jimmy G has proven that he could play in the playoffs. He can be efficient in the playoffs. Has he been a good playoff quarterback? No, but he's efficient. And he makes the plays that you need to keep your team in the game if you have a good defensive team. And right now, Cleveland is the perfect team for him. I think they have a very good defense, they have a good front seven, and a good secondary.
Yeah, they're a very similar identity to San Francisco. Now, San Francisco, I think, has a little more of the star power on offense, but Cleveland has a lot of good depth, and they have a much better offensive line. Not that San Francisco's
better
bad.
Running game.
Multiple tight ends to make it work, and Jimmy Garoppolo's always used his tight ends, even with the Patriots when he was there for the little bit he played. Something that he'll be used to if that's the move that they want to make, too. And yeah, a guy that's a good culture guy, good leadership guy, and has been a winner. Granted, playing with Bill Belichick helps. And Tom
Is he
Brady.
better than Baker Mayfield?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
He's a guy that definitely is a good locker room guy for a Browns team that still has a questionable team culture, even though they have a lot of
questionable
players. Yeah,
well, it's more than questionable. They're a joke. The Browns need to figure out what they're going to be doing this offseason, because if they don't have a starting quarterback, a team that has a lot of talent ready to win now, if they don't find a quarterback, if DeShaun Watson doesn't play 10 or 12 games this year, they're going to be in big trouble in a division that's really talented. With the Bengals that are much better than they were last year, who went to the Super Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens that are 100% healthy, which they didn't have any running backs last year. They're better this year. And even the Pittsburgh Steelers might have a quarterback now that could actually
and a defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, over there now, too.
Yeah, so I don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to do without a quarterback if DeShaun Watson loses his hearing with the NFL.